All right, now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker from the Los Angeles Department of Mental Health, Ms. Stephanie Renteria. Ms. Renteria is an experienced mental health educator, and she's provided counseling, outreach, and support for Special Planning Area 7 as a United Mental Health Promoter in Los Angeles and beyond. And we're really grateful to have her here today to share her expertise and guidance on this very important topic for emerging adults and, frankly, everyone in LA County today. Thank you, Stephanie. The stage is yours.
Sorry. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie, and I'm part of the Department of Mental Health. And we educate the community about prevention and how to cope with mental health. There we go. So what's our intention? So today's intention is to, one, talk about what mental health is. Second, what is stigma? Third, where does the narratives maintaining stigma of mental health come from? And fourth, what can we do to reduce and ultimately eliminate stigma of mental health in our communities? So what is mental health? A state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of diseases or illnesses. It is related to the promotion of well-being, the prevention of mental disorders, and the treatment/rehabilitation of people. And at any time, if anyone wants to stop me and add anything to the slide or ask a question, please feel free. So here we have a picture with rocks, and it looks like it's a scale, right? A scale that it's balanced. Mental health provides us with the ability to live in physical, mental, and spiritual balance. So this is an activity that I wanted to share with everyone today. This is a agree or disagree. If anyone wants to share, feel free to share. I'm going to read them, and then after, if anyone wants to share on whether they agree or disagree, please let me know. Or you guys could, I can't see if you guys raise up your hand, but please do stop us. So the 7 statements here are, the first one is, I am afraid of people with mental disorders. Second, only adults can suffer from mental disorders. People suffer from mental disorders because they have done something wrong. I am very comfortable talking about mental health disorders with other people. If the person does not think about their mental disorders, it disappears. If someone is depressed, you should not ask them if they have suicidal thoughts. And last, mental disorders can be treated. Does anyone want to share here if they agree or disagree with the statements? Stephen, since I can't see anyone, if they're raising up their hand,
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat here. No comments quite yet. Let me see. We have one. I agree partially. I'm semi-comfortable with talking about mental health disorders with other people.
Okay, nice. Okay, so we only have one. Okay, so for semi was for what statement again? I am very comfortable.
I am semi-comfortable about talking about mental health disorders with other people. The others I disagree with. Oh, we had another comment saying I agree with most of them.
Okay, nice, nice. Well, thank you for sharing. And this is, again, it's if you agree or disagree, it's not a right or wrong answer. Okay, we're gonna move forward with the other slides we have here. This is another activity we have here is the common narratives versus reality on mental health. So here we have a common narrative. It's also a common narrative is more like a story that, society tells in one's culture, kind of like a myth. So here we have, once people show mental problems, they never recover. Some people think, oh, well, this person has this mental illness. It's not treatable, or they will never recover. It's, a lifelong problem. And so that's one of the common narratives. And the reality is that research studies show that most people with mental disorders get better, and many make a full recovery because now we have more research. Now we have, more studies, and there is treatment. So another common narrative that we have here is there is no hope for people with mental problems, right? That some people think, well, again, there's no treatment, there's no hope, and we can't do anything about it, right? But in reality, there are many treatments and strategies, again, like with many research and studies that now we have access to, and the community support for people with mental health disorders, it's gotten better, right? It's gotten better, and there is hope. So here we have another common narrative. Mental disorders cannot affect me, right? Some people think, oh, well, it's not genetics, right? My parents are fine, they're healthy, or my mother's healthy, my father's healthy. Our family shows no symptoms, no one in our family carries a mental disorder, right? And it can't affect me because it doesn't run in my family, right? But in reality, mental disorders are very common, affecting many families. They do not discriminate, and they can affect anyone. Another common narrative here is mental disorders appear because of weakness of character, right? Some people say, oh, well, he or she has a mental disorder because they're weak-minded. They're weak, they're not strong enough to move on with their problems or what they're dealing with. In reality, mental disorders are the product of the interaction of biological, psychological, and social factors. And again, if there's any questions or comments, just feel free again to stop me. Another common narrative here that we have, I cannot do anything for someone with a mental health condition, right? Again, like going back to, there's no hope. I can't help this individual because they're not right in their head. There's no way I could talk to this person. This person doesn't understand me because of their mental health condition. But in reality, we could do much more than we think, right? Because if we could, be able to help this person out and understand, I think there is hope, right? To help this person out. Again, with all the research and studies, and knowledge is power. And now that we have more access to a lot of programs and mental health programs that we have throughout LA County, it's not that it's gotten easier, but there is hope, right? There is treatment. So what is stigma? Stigma refers to attitudes and beliefs that, one, motivate people to fear, right? People being afraid of a person. If they see a person walking, and right away they assume, oh, that person's crazy in the head, right? Or that person's not all there, or something's wrong with that person. To reject or avoid the person who acts or is seen as different, right? Maybe going around the person, right? Going around and saying like, oh, I don't want to get near that person. I'm going to cut through the other side to avoid this person because they look different, right? For example, a person that's on a bench, right? A person that's homeless and is sitting on the bench, and you just like right away, oh, I'm going to go around this person, right? Because you want to avoid the person. And for example, me, that I have a daughter, she's 5 years old, and when we see a person on the bench, she does kind of like show that she's scared, right? And she tells me, you know what, I don't want to go past through that person because the person looks scary, right? And I told her, don't be afraid, he's also a human being like us, because he looks different, don't think he's any different. He's also human, so why not, let's pass. Nothing's gonna happen. We could even wave hello, right? Or say hi, because it doesn't hurt anybody to say hi or hello or good afternoon, right? Good morning. The third one here is label the person because they have a diagnosis of a mental disorder, right? Saying like, oh, that person probably has a personality disorder, or that person might be bipolar, right? We're not doctors to diagnose people, especially on the streets, right? Next slide. What comes to your mind when you hear the phrase mental health conditions, right? Or mental health illness? A lot of terms that we use are crazy, weak, disabled, somewhat out of control, or also he's not all there, right? Or something's wrong with this person. Does anyone want to share any other words that are used? Okay, moving on. Which emotions and behaviors come with these thoughts? Shame, impotence, and silence. And here we have a quote, don't air your dirty laundry in public, right? In Spanish, la ropa sucia se lava en casa, right? And we have a person here and they're kind of like trying to stay quiet, right? Because, well, you know, we don't want to talk about mental health, right? We don't want to put our business out there when we're going through something. What is stigma by association? The belief or attitudes that the family is to blame and responsible for the mental health conditions, right? Like sometimes if we see someone out in the street, like, oh, maybe the parents, you know, it's not always that case, right? Where, oh, it's the parents' fault. They didn't raise that person right. And so that's an example of stigma by association. Where does the narratives maintaining stigma and mental health come from? Typically, you know, it sometimes comes from home, right? Where we start stigmatizing like, oh, that person's different, or that person's suffering from a mental illness, and or another one where like, oh, men are not supposed to cry, right? Men are stronger, they're not supposed to cry or show weakness. What are the pieces of our history? So on our next slide here, we have why is it important to go back and reflect on history, right? So why the stigma? Not having the knowledge is what sometimes creates the stigmatization, right? Where people don't choose to have a mental illness, right? They don't choose to be born that way. They just happen to have it and they have to deal with it now, right? And now that we have so much knowledge about mental illnesses and treatments, things are getting better now. So next slide here. The history. So going back to the history, right? Or the common narratives, again, the quote unquote myths, right? What we hear from, you know, our personal thoughts, social or family beliefs, the media, the race, the ethnicity. And of course, here we have a lived experience. Again, if anyone has any questions, please let me know. So here, before COVID-19 pandemic, we have some numbers here. The National Alliance for Mental Illness, also known as NAMI, estimated that about 1 in 17 Americans suffer from a serious mental condition affecting 1 in 5 families. So again, here we have numbers again. United States in late June of 2020, adults reported 31% symptoms of anxiety or depression. 13 have started or increased substance use. 26 stress-related symptoms. 11% serious thoughts of suicide in the past 30 days. And here we also have a survey. Surveys show that risk factors for reporting anxiety symptoms or suicidal ideation include 1, food insufficiency, 2, financial concerns, and 3, loneliness, isolation, right? And this is with the COVID-19 pandemic. So here we have mental health in times of COVID-19. Your concerns are valid, right? Everyone's concerns are valid. So here we have, there are many reasons why you may be worried about COVID-19. Some of the most common concerns are becoming sick, right? Everyone's afraid. If I have a cough or a fever or a headache, right? We're afraid of becoming sick, and then we're afraid of the people we love that are around us, our parents, sometimes because our parents are older, right? We're afraid of our children getting sick, our siblings getting sick, right? And adjusting to the new reality. And then we have caring for or helping your family, right? So if one person in the household gets sick, you're afraid of getting the other sick, or who's going to take care of the whole family, who's going to bring the food. Is there anyone who's going to bring you food to your doorstep, right? Because you don't want to come into contact with the person. That again is the health concerns of your family and friends. Financial stress, right? If everyone in the household, say mom and dad, or maybe just mom, or maybe just dad, right, get sick, or the children get sick, who's going to take care of the children, right? Because they can't go to daycares, they can't go to the schools because they're sick. So then you have to take care of the children and stay home, right? So that also becomes financial stress. Being unable to relate to friends and family as before. Maybe now sometimes people see each other, but they don't hug or shake hands, right? Shortage of everyday common good supplies, right? Sometimes, we run out of different things like toilet paper or water, right? There's this shortage that happened in the past during the pandemic and still sometimes tends to happen. So let's continue to talk about context, the historical of COVID-19. So here we have structural racism, cultural racism, stereotypes, and prejudice. And then we also have discrimination. And here we also have access to healthy environments, access to medical care, access to opportunities and essential jobs, right? So the communities of color are disproportionately affected directly and indirectly by COVID-19, right? So we saw that there was less funds, right, in certain areas throughout LA County, and being that, our communities are usually typically, the minority, we were affected more with the COVID-19. So here we have mental health in times of COVID-19, the past, present, and future meet, right? So here for the first one, we have complex trauma, we have violence, war, immigration, hate crimes, and the genocide. Second, we have suicide, ideation, plan, or attempt, right, to commit suicide. We have domestic violence, right? There's more domestic violence now in households. Number 4, financial abuse. Number 5, conflict in the family, in the community. 6, grief and loss, family, community we lost due to COVID-19. Many of us lost our family members due to COVID-19. 7, changes in our mental health due to COVID-19. The virus versus the physical distancing mandates. So here we have what we call a crock pot, right? We have stigma plus mental health in times of COVID-19, and you get the pressure cooker, right? We have a picture here with the crock pot steaming. And here we have, if you guys could see, we have white umbrellas everywhere, right? And we have a blue umbrella that's it stands out, right? And here we have a quote: "We want to be seen, heard, valued, and not judged," right? We don't want to be judged like, oh, okay, you look different, right? Because you're blue and we're all white, but you're the only one that's blue and you stand out. Yeah, you want to be seen and heard and valued, but not judged, right? Just because you're different or you look different to others. So here on this side, we have stigma is maintained in our words. That person is crazy, right? That's what we typically tend to say, right? Some of us, not all of us, or people out in the street, that person's crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, when you come across a person that is homeless and is sitting on a bench, that person must be crazy, right? We're already diagnosing someone or putting a label on someone. That person is demented. That person is disabled. that person is being punished by God for something they did, right? Oh, that person is cursed, right? What other thoughts come to mind? Does anyone want to share what else? Sometimes some words that we use when we come across people.
In the chat, we have other words like, dangerous,
Yes, dangerous.
broken, disabled.
Mhm. Yes, thank you guys for sharing.
Liability.
Liability, yes. That's another one that we don't have listed there. Thank you for sharing. Resilience is also maintained in our words, right? Knowledge is power. My history and my story is important. My story is valid. My story has power and purpose. My history/story is similar to other stories from my community. I am not alone nor alone on this path, so we can all move forward, right? So being resilient and breaking down that cycle where you can't share with other people what you're going through. People are going to judge you. People are going to think you're crazy or you're not all there or you need help, right? People start judging you like, oh, you really need help. You really need therapy. So we shouldn't feel that way because sometimes our stories could relate to other people's stories, right? And sharing your story also helps you. So here we have an image of a mother and it says strong like a madre. It's in Spanish. So madre is mother. So it says strong like a madre, strong like a mother. So you see a mother holding her child and also holding a backpack. And it seems like I look at this picture and I also see mountains behind, right? And I see this mother who's a fighter, who's strong, and seems like she's been traveling, right? Maybe because I see the mountains, that's how I look at this, right? And a mother has no borderline, and a mother will always be a mother. So here we have a video we wanted to share. Resilience is also maintained in our practices, right? During the pandemic that, most places were shut down or closed. There was people who were still doing their daily activities, even if they had to share it or post a video through YouTube. So here we have indigenous dancers share videos online, and I'm going to play it. Let me know if you guys are able to hear it and see it as well.
Yep, I can hear it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay. Anyone has any comments or questions? Okay, so the next slide we have here is eliminating stigma and promoting resilience. So stigma does not allow us to access our power, our strengths. We need our own narratives of power and strength. So thinking to yourself, I can't share this with other people, right? Because people are going to judge me or things like that, right? Does not allow us to be able to discover like our full potentials and our strengths. So let's change our narratives. So here we have a video. It's a lesson on resilience, and we have toddlers here, and they're inside a classroom with the teacher.
Morning, everyone! Who does it look like?
It looks like me.
That's right. I want you to do everything that you can to knock your toy down. Who is the strongest in class? Jerron, come on up, please. I'm going to give Jerron a prop, and he's going to try to knock it off the table. Ready, Jerron? Okay, children, who can tell me what it means to have resilience? Yes, Paige?
Resilience means if you make the toy fall down, it'll come back up very, very fast.
Very nice.
Okay, so I really like showing that video because it shows you how no matter, you know, even they chose the strongest kid in the class, right? Even though he was the strongest and he tried to knock down the toy still managed, even though, right, it fell and it might have got hurt, right? If we're the person, we're talking about ourselves, like, yeah, I might fall and trip and get, you know, bruises or scrapes, but I still managed to get back up. And it's interesting how they look like they're 4 to 5, 6-year-old, right? That it's interesting that by that age, the little girl was able to respond what resilience was. And I'm like, wow, I wish I knew that when I was their age, right? So I really like that video. I like showing that video. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
We have one comment. Brilliant representation of resilience. Thank you. Rolly dolls.
What was that? Can you repeat that?
Oh,
Sorry.
it's just brilliant representation of resilience for the Rolly dolls. Thank you. And then an
Right.
earlier comment for the Native American videos. It's nice, colorful costumes. It's fun how music evokes such a strong response across diverse channels. Thank you for sharing. And another comment, great example for the resilience.
Mhm. Okay, thank you guys for sharing. It wants us to watch it again. Okay, here we go. So here we have the 5 pillars of resilience. We have consciousness, critical reflection, self-care, one of my favorites, community, and purpose, right? So does anyone want to share the 5 pillars? Give an example.
I mean, for me, self-care, I often think about getting good sleep and nutrition, but especially sleep.
Yes, definitely. That is one of my favorites too, right? I love to sleep in. Yeah, I love self-care. That's one of my, I'm like, I wish that was the first one. So yeah, the 5 pillars is like your house, right? It's like you have a house and the house is your body, right? And The first one, consciousness, educating ourselves about our social conditions, critical reflection is questioning our own perspectives about others. And then we have self-care, right? Going out for walks, or going shopping, or getting a journal and writing about how you feel or what you did. And then again, sleeping or bike riding, right? Or going on a picnic with your children. Self-care is very important, because we get used to our routine, our daily routines, right? Going to work, dropping off the kids at school, or just getting into this regular routine. And sometimes we just need to self-care, right? Where you worry about yourself, even if it's like for us women, sometimes, going to the nail salon or doing our hair, getting pampered. Community is also very important. Connecting with your community, networking, right? Going to your city hall maybe, or a park, somewhere where you feel like you're safe, right? A safe space, or maybe going to a senior center, or maybe going to a library, right? Where it's peaceful and quiet. And the last one, purpose, right? Our lives have a purpose beyond what we humans understand. So here we have another video, and this is breaking the stigma again. So I'm gonna play it.
You know that feeling where your thoughts scare you or make life tough? Sometimes it feels like no one else in the world has those thoughts or feelings. No one seems to know how difficult it is to deal with your feelings. And it's not easy to share your deepest secrets. You might think something is wrong with you. Or you might worry what other people think. And all of that makes your thoughts and feelings worse. Our culture has created this environment of shame. Until the 1960s, society sent people away if they had challenges managing their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Over time, we learned that we didn't have to be afraid. We learned how to help people get better. We became hopeful. But there are remnants of those images in our culture today, which is why some people still feel uncomfortable talking about it. The stigma has taken new forms too. With more access to more people all the time, it can seem like the world is telling us it's not okay to be anything but perfect. The truth is, everyone has thoughts or feelings that can be hard to deal with. So why do we make it so difficult on ourselves by judging others who could be going through the same challenges we are? What if, instead of seeing labels, we saw people who are struggling and could be there for them so they didn't feel so alone? What if we looked past our fear of mental health and started to talk about it in a constructive way? What if, as a society, we used empowering words and healthy images to help people feel supported? Maybe then more of us could feel comfortable telling others when we're having a hard time. Maybe more people would get the help they need. And maybe one day we won't have to talk separately about mental health and physical health, but just health. The truth is, each of us has the power to change our culture. Will you join us? Share this video with a kid, your neighbor, a friend, and help us break the stigma of mental health.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, that was great.
You know that feeling where
Oh, go ahead.
We had an earlier comment. They were saying they opt to use mental well-being versus mental health and mental disease because they're considering it more like a spectrum. And I think this video kind of illustrates that. It's something that we all struggle with, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, sharing, I think being able to share and get that out of your, your system or your mind is really helpful. Like something I use sometimes is like, I want to share how I'm feeling, right? Because I have two daughters, and sometimes I'm stressed out, right, with the routine and everything. And I'm like, well, who can I talk to? I don't want to get judged. And people tell me like, oh, you have no patience, or you're a bad mom, right? And usually I like to, talk to other mothers, right? And tell them like, oh, I'm so stressed out. The 5-year-old throws tantrums, and And so being able to relate with others, because I talk to other moms as well, and they feel the same way, like, don't worry about it. My child does the same thing. And being able to let it out and, not keep it as a secret, because just holding it in is what kind of makes us, a little more worried, anxious, and stressed out. But thank you for sharing. What can we do to eliminate stigma? Being here today to learn about stigma and mental health, right? Continue the dialogue with other people, maybe talking to other people about it also helps eliminate the stigma. And making connections, right, between the history, our lived experiences, and our common narratives. Another one is stop before using a label, right? Like we mentioned earlier, he's dangerous, or she's dangerous, or you're crazy. Getting rid of those labels is really important as well, because we get used to it, right? Labeling others, and then our children hear it and see it as well, and they do the same thing, right? Being intentional with our words or our silence and actions. Anyone else wants to share an example of how we could eliminate stigma? Okay, moving forward. So learn how to be stigma-free, right? So these are the 3 steps. And most importantly, I think, show it, right? Showing it is not only learning it, living it and sharing it. I think it's important to show it, right? So here we have live it, learn about mental health by educating yourself and others. Share it, share stigma-free on social media, strive to listen, tell your own story, and not see the person, not the illness, right? Not like mentioning, like, for example, if you yourself or you have a family member that has a mental disorder, right? Instead of looking at the disorder, maybe looking at the person or talking about the person. For me, a good example would be, I have a brother that suffers from a mental illness, and back then I would always say, because I have 2 brothers, so when they would ask me, how's your brother doing, I would say, which brother, the one with schizophrenia or the other one, right? And that's something I learned, and I was able to teach my family members as well, because when they describe my brother, they usually say that, it's my brother, the one with schizophrenia, right? Instead of saying, it's my youngest brother. Always I focused on the illness, right? Or another one is, when police talk about a person, right, going through a mental breakdown, or they want to describe the person, right? They say the female or the male that's schizophrenic, right? Or autistic, right? The most important one that I see here is show it, right? Take action on mental health issues, raise awareness, letting other people know, and making a difference. So here, I think this one's one of our last videos here, the danger of silence. It's a TED Talk.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in a 1968 speech where he reflects upon the civil rights movement, states, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." As a teacher, I've internalized this message. Every day, all around us, we see the consequences of silence manifest themselves in the form of discrimination, violence, genocide, and war. In the classroom, I challenge my students to explore the silences in their own lives through poetry. We work together to fill those spaces, to recognize them, to name them, to understand that they don't have to be sources of shame. In an effort to create a culture within my classroom where students feel safe sharing the intimacies of their own silences, I have 4 core principles posted on the board that sits in the front of my class, which every student signs at the beginning of the year. Read critically, write consciously, speak clearly, tell your truth. I find myself thinking a lot about that last point, tell your truth. And I realize that if I was going to ask my students to speak up, I was going to have to tell my truth and be honest with them about the times where I failed to do so. So I'd tell them that growing up as a kid in a Catholic family in New Orleans, during Lent, I was always taught that the most meaningful thing one could do was to give something up, sacrifice something you typically indulge in to prove to God you understand his sanctity. I've given up soda, McDonald's, French fries, French kisses, and everything in between. But one year, I gave up speaking. Figured the most valuable thing I could sacrifice was my own voice, but it was like I hadn't realized that I had given that up a long time ago. I had spent so much of my life telling people the things they wanted to hear instead of the things they needed to. Told myself I wasn't meant to be anyone's conscience because I still had to figure out being my own, so sometimes I just wouldn't say anything, appeasing ignorance with my silence, unaware that validation doesn't need words to endorse its existence. When Christian was beat up for being gay, I put my hands in my pocket and walked with my head down as if I didn't even notice. Couldn't use my locker for weeks because the bolt on the lock reminded me of the one I had put on my lips when the homeless man on the corner looked at me with eyes up, merely searching for an affirmation that he was worth seeing. I was more concerned with touching the screen of my Apple than actually feeding him one. When the woman at the fundraising gala said, "I'm so proud of you. It must be so hard teaching those poor, unintelligent kids," I bit my lip because apparently we needed her money more than my students needed their dignity. We spend so much time listening to the things people are saying that we rarely pay attention to the things they don't. Silence is the residue of fear. It is feeling your flaws gut-wrench guillotine your tongue. It is the air retreating from your chest because it doesn't feel safe in your lungs. Silence is Rwandan genocide. Silence is Katrina. It is what you hear when there aren't enough body bags left. It is the sound after the noose is already tied. It is charring. It is chains. It is privilege. It is pain. There is no time to pick your battles when your battles have already picked you. I will not let silence wrap itself around my indecision. I will tell Christian that he is a lion, a sanctuary of bravery and brilliance. I will ask that homeless man what his name is and how his day was, because sometimes all people want to be is human. I will tell that woman that my students can talk about transcendentalism like their last name was Thoreau, and just because you watch one episode of The Wire doesn't mean you know anything about my kids. So this year, instead of giving something up, I will live every day as if there were a microphone tucked under my tongue, a stage on the underside of my inhibition. Because who has to have a soapbox when all you've ever needed is your voice? Thank you.
Any comments or questions here?
Yeah, I got a cheers and applause, stomples.
Right.
It was very powerful.
Yes, it's a it's a powerful speech because, as I mentioned earlier, you know, when my daughter and I, you know, go, you know, we're out and about and we see a person that's homeless, and rather than showing her, you know, the fear, like he mentioned, Clint Smith here, he was sharing on the video, you know, a simple hello, or even asking for the person's name, right? Or, you know, maybe buying him lunch, right? Or food. And, you know, people sometimes just want to be acknowledged, right? Like a simple hello, hi, how are you doing? You know, they're no different, you know, we're all humans. And this is a very powerful speech. And thank you guys for sharing.
Stephanie,
Yes.
we had a request for links to the videos. Could you share that with me after the fact, and I'll send it
Yeah,
out to the
it's
folks
gonna
in an
pop
email?
out. Yeah, it's gonna pop out here on one of the slides, and you guys could
Oh,
take
okay,
a picture of it. Yeah, we're gonna have our resources posted here. So here we have the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health again, and we have our hotline. So if you guys want to take a picture of it, it's a 24/7 hotline. And we have more resources there. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to take a picture of it. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So here we have the videos that you guys wanted to take a look at home on your own time. So if you guys want to take a picture, There's about 4 videos that I shared. We also have the articles and a radio podcast. Okay, I'm gonna move forward. Sorry, we only had an hour, so, but those are the additional resources. These are references again. If you guys want to take a picture of that, feel free. And this is a stigma and discrimination reduction survey. So if you guys could please do me a favor and scan the QR code here. It's to help our department improve. So you guys could tell us what you think about the presentation. And you could also put the program, which is again, mental health. Our program is Department of Mental Health, and today's topic was on mental health and stigma during COVID-19. My name again is Stephanie. So you would put my name and you would also put today's date. All the other questions on the survey are optional. Feel free to skip any question you do not wish to answer. So again, this is the QR code here. You just scan it and the survey will appear, and it's in English. And that ends our presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, thank you, Stephanie. We did have a question earlier. How can I encourage my relatives to seek mental health?
That's a good question. Maybe showing them the resources that LA County offers. That's a good way to start. Showing them the resources, talking about it. Maybe showing them what we learned today is also a good way, because at the end of the day, not everyone wants to help. But if you can show them and talk about it a little bit, because sometimes people also get upset, right? When you tell them, hey, I think you need help, or, they start thinking, why are you judging me? Or why do you think I need help? Maybe you need help, right? These comments and feedback. So maybe talking about it, showing them the resources. Again, I shared with you guys the hotline. It's a 24/7 hotline and it's anonymous. So maybe showing them that is a good way to start.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, anyone, please feel free to add any additional questions into our Q&A box at the bottom or in our chat. Stephanie, since we're also talking a bit about transition age youth, or emerging adults ages 18 to 25, do you feel like that's an especially challenging time for mental health, when you're learning to become an adult?
Yes, I think it's really hard because you're 18, you're trying to figure out what you want to do, right? Sometimes, people are just graduating high school, right? And they don't know if they're going to go to college, maybe a community college or a university. Are they going to move out from their parents, right? I think it's challenging because sometimes you don't know, right? Am I going to work? Am I going to do both? I have responsibilities. And so they get, stressed out because they don't know, right? Sometimes we have our parents that are kind of like, you either work or you go to school, or sometimes there's parents that don't talk about education, right? They just, you have to find a job. You're 18, you have to help out with the bills and you're going to work. Sometimes getting an education or continuing your education through college is not an option for everybody. So I think it's, 18 to 25 is where you're kind of, I think it's where you have more anxiety, right? Because you're becoming an adult, right? And you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life. And so, yeah, I think it's extremely hard at that age.
Thank you. Another question. Yeah, we'll share the link for the questionnaire in the chat. RD, give me 1 second for that. Can you get, let me see here, try to read this.
See.
Can you get, mental health support for someone who won't get it themselves due to the way they're discriminated against, harassed, or told that, they're intimidating because of their size and race? So I think just asking for somebody who feels like it's difficult for them to get, help.
So this person wants the help but feels discriminated?
Yeah, someone who feels that they're discriminated against when, or told that they're intimidating because of their size and race.
So I guess the question is, the person wants the help, right? But they're afraid to speak up or get the help because they feel like they're being judged, right?
Yeah, they want to get it for someone else who feels like they can't get it for themselves because they feel or they are discriminated against.
Yeah, that shouldn't be something to be afraid of, like looking for help. Again, Department of Mental Health, we don't discriminate. So I showed you guys the hotline, right? There's a hotline, and I don't think I could post it here, but I could share more resources that we have. We're service area 7. So I could send you resources. We have different locations for adults, and they're good resources. So I'll send them out, and hopefully they're able to reach out. Again, we shouldn't be afraid to speak up, or because what we look like or who we are or what we're going through, right? I think being able to speak up is going to help us. So yeah, again, don't be afraid. The help is there. LA County has a lot of program and resources. So let's take advantage of that. And I'll send the resources to you, Stephen.
Great, thank you. We had another question. Any specialized advice for a senior citizen, so older father who's actually suffering from dementia, and they're having a hard time.
So this is for the family member, right, of the person who is suffering from dementia, right?
Yeah, or it could be that person themselves that's asking right now.
Right. Well, again, we have resources where they could talk to someone that's more trained for that, for the grieving and loss. And we have, again, different resources, and maybe because I don't specialize in that, right? So I could share the resources. There is a lot of resources as well for seniors. Maybe trying your local senior center. There's also resources there to engage and meet other seniors as well, other seniors that are going through, hardship because they're aging, right? And then there's resources too with LA County for family members that are also, being impacted because their family member is going through a rough patch, right? Again, I'll send the resources. I can't give advice because I'm not a licensed therapist, but I will definitely send the resources. And again, sharing is very important, and getting the help is very important as well. There's so many programs. You guys could also go on the website, Department of Mental Health, and there's so many resources. There's many programs that you could participate in as well. So just feel free and check it out. And again, don't feel fear because of who you are, what you look like. At the end of the day, we're all the same person, right?
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We had a comment earlier, that being brave and sharing our stories with others, that's the way forward for overcoming stigma. Thank you for that comment. Any other questions, folks? You can add it into our Q&A box or into the chat. Yeah, just another comment here. Just says, thank you very much. I enjoy listening and participating. And thank you for taking a moment to think about the earlier question about the person who had a difficult experience when they were seeking treatment.
Oh, right. And again, if there's someone, say, for example, you're seeking treatment and you meet someone that, you know, is supposed to help you out and they're not helping you in any way, shape, or form, you know, there's always you could always switch, right? Look for other people, because, you know, everyone's different. And if that person's not working out for you, you could always request to see other people as well and connect with other people. LA County is big again, and there's different departments, and just don't be afraid. You know, if it doesn't work out with one person, it will work out with someone else.
Great.
Mhm.
Thank you. We're almost at the end of our program. Does anyone else have any closing comments or questions? Please feel free to add it to our chat. If not, you know, I'd like to take this time to thank you, Stephanie, for your time and your expertise and the work that you do for all of LA County and your departments. Really appreciate it. And thank you for supporting our library as well by helping out. Oh, one question at the end. Let's see. Oh, how can we get to the group of people that need these resources? How can we get? Well, I think Stephanie, you were sharing earlier all the links and the hotlines for the resources.
Yeah, that is one of the main hotlines there, that the 24/7 hotlines. But I have specific, you know, not just sometimes people don't want to call in, but we have, I'll share with you guys the website. Well, I'll share with you, Stephen, and maybe you could share it with everyone that attended, the different resources that LA County has.
Thank you. Yeah, for all the participants, thanks to your registration, we'll be sure to send out additional resources and a follow-up email to everyone, so you can have that in your inbox as well too.
Yeah, and we also, our department also does, we do support groups as well, and those are in person. I'll share those details as well. And so everyone that participated today, are everyone like from the community Downey, or we have different people from different cities?
Yeah, folks want to share what neighborhoods you're from? I think it must be all over LA County, because when we were marketing this, it was system-wide, so all throughout LA County.
Okay, so I'll share the website, and there's more information there, and it has the different areas, the service areas.
Great. Yeah, we got like downtown LA, Hawthorne,
Okay.
Lancaster.
Department of Mental Health covers all those areas. So I'll share those details with you, Stephen.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you for having us here, Stephen. Thank you for everyone that participated. And I hope everyone was able to get something out of it. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your night. Please take care, and remember self-care. Very important, self-care. Like Stephen mentioned, sleeping in. If you need to sleep in because you have the time, go ahead and sleep in. You know, self-care is very important as well.
Great, thank you. For folks, I just wanted to close by saying our next virtual program in this series will be on April 6th on the topic of nutrition on a budget, with speakers from Department of Public Health. And this month and next, we'll also be hosting in-person programs on additional topics at branches in Lancaster, San Fernando, Compton, South Whittier, and East LA. You can find out more information and register on our website at visit.lacountylibrary.org. And again, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Jose. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.